You Foundation folk shall never understand the power of the reverse hidden umbrella. That's a line from SCP-1294J, one of a few that we're going to cover here on the Week 11 recap show on SCP Cafe. I'm your host, Blue Soul, SCP Wiki moderator, chat operator, subreddit moderator, author, writer, loving husband, dog petter, cologne aficionado, and Week 11 podcast hoster. Oh my goodness, we are smack in the middle of JamCon. Well, that's not true. We're actually mostly over it at this point. All over but the crying and the voting. We are through all three categories. We had well over 100 entries survive, which is pretty impressive. I think we had something like a 50% increase in entries year over year versus JamCon 2018, and I haven't read a single one of them yet. My plan, as I had indicated a few weeks ago, is to let the voting proceed. At the end of the line here in about a month, I will take the top two from each of the 3 days of the three themes, and we'll check them out and see what makes them tick and what we like and don't like. In the meantime, what that meant for this week was that nobody was really writing skips. There weren't a lot. This was the lowest number that I'd had in over 3 months. And the makeup of the works this week, there was a lot of there's no way to be kind about this. A lot of subpar work that did survive this week. I don't know if it was that they were users that simply didn't know that JamCon was going on, or whatever the case. This week there was not a lot of quality to choose from. A couple that were so long as to be out of the scope of the recap format, and that only left me with a handful that I really even wanted to look at for this week. So this is going to be a pretty short episode. A couple of quick things before we get into week 11. Wanted to thank all of the listeners on Spotify. This has been a wild week. Was planning on announcing the 5,000 plays total for the podcast on this week's show, and I'm actually closer to 6,000 than 5,000 at this point. Been a really busy week, and really pleased to see that it's the week 10 show's been far and away the most downloaded thing that I've put out there yet, and thank you guys. Really appreciate it. It's cool seeing this thing kind of grow and build organically, because I've not really had time lately to do any sort of advertising. The store just launched last week. There is a link to that from scp.cafe from the homepage, so please check that out. I have not had I've not really had a moment's pause to get out there and advertise the pod or the store or really anything. I've been working 65, 70-hour weeks for the past couple of weeks, and that is still on the horizon for a bit longer. So in the meantime, that we seem to be doing okay despite it. So please keep listening. Really appreciate you guys as always, and bear with me for what's going to be an odd sort of week, because we only are going to be looking at 3 entries this week. We have our long boy of the week that I will make mention of separately, but outside of that, I've got 3 main listers that I want to cover. Only had 12 in scope to begin with, so like I said, just the works this week were not of the sort of quality that I am used to seeing, and I think that's because so much of the collective effort was focused on JamCon. So hopefully next week there might be a bit of a little hangover period. We'll see. I could see that happening, or I could also see just a return to form, our usual sort of numbers of 20 or so skips to look at and narrow down for week 12. But in the meantime, this probably is going to be a shorter episode this week. We're going to kick things off with SCP-4585, titled Literally a Hamburger, written by Axol1231. First thing you see looking at the skip is what looks to be a stock photo of a hamburger on a Kaiser roll with a toothpick in it on a plate with It looks like some chips and that sort of thing. Pretty upscale looking burger. And we have a caption that reads SCP-4585 during initial discovery. So, given that it said literally a hamburger, well, I suppose that makes sense. We have an object class of safe and procedures that indicate that the hamburger is to be stored within a soundproofed containment cell at Site 50. Interacting with it requires level 2 or higher security clearance, and it's recommended that safety glasses be taken into its cell during any interactions. However, this is not required. The description indicates that it is a standard hamburger made by the Steak and Shake Corporation. Now, I am not too proud to admit I am a Steak and Shake fan. We actually don't have them out here in the high desert of the Southwest, but moved from Kentucky, had plenty of them out there in Ohio, and this is not a Steak and Shake burger, this picture. Sad but true, but we'll move on. The skip is allegedly sapient and can speak in German via a voice of unknown origin, and this voice has reached a maximum of 142 decibels, which is pretty goddamn loud. It's capable of using the 5 senses and will not decompose. Now, one of the things I'm going to do today is I'm going to sort of deconstruct these on the fly, because these are pretty much everything this week needed some work. So I'm going to point out a couple of things kind of as we go, and they're the little things that catch my eye that should be considered or improved. Given preferably improved before it actually hits the main site, but we'll put that out there anyway. So what they mention here is that SCP-4585 is capable of using the 5 senses. We have a footnote that says hearing, sight, taste, smell, and touch, and then it says, and will not decompose. So that is sort of implying that it will never decompose, and we are not in the business of making such statements. We can easily say that it has not been shown to decompose, but there is no guarantee that that would be the case going forward. So minor differences: will not decompose versus has not decomposed, despite being in containment for X number of days, weeks, months, whatever. And that was just something that caught my eye. Anyway, the skip can voluntarily cause -1 manifestation events, but is unable to cause a manifestation event if less than, and we have a then-than mismatch here, 1 month has elapsed since the last one. We have some sort of basic failings in tone here, and this is, and I'm going to say this is still, compared to most of the field this week, this was still a good work. So take that, for what it's worth. So it can manifest -1 instances if it has been more than a month since the last time, and manifestation events can cause up to 25 manifestations. And again, we're laying out things as though they're fact rather than observations. This reads, to be precise, -1 manifestation events can number a maximum of 25 manifestations. Now, that's not to unless the skip has implied or actually outright told us it can't manifest more than 25 -1s at a time, and we are only observing that we have only ever seen a maximum of 25. That's an important delineation and not something that is ultimately supported by the work. So this should read something that, manifestation events have numbered as high as 25 instances. Again, small changes, but they do affect the way that it reads and the message that you're putting out there. So we're going on. Physically, -1 instances are smaller than, and we have another than mismatch, 4585, but otherwise identical. In addition to the skip's anomalous properties, -1 instances also possess the ability to generate French fries. They utilize said French fries In a similar fashion to a throwing spear, they use telekinesis to throw these weapons, but have not shown this ability on other objects, and the French fry will demanifest after it is thrown. And we have a note here: in the event that the meat of a -1 instance is completely separated from the rest of the hamburger. There are more mistakes here on a deeper reading than I initially, my somewhat quicker reading really noted. And that's part of the interesting thing with this recap is I will occasionally see something that I totally missed the first time around just because it didn't catch my eye, but it ends up being pivotal to the work. This isn't pivotal to the work, but I'm seeing more and more of these small mistakes adding up. In any event, you take the meat off of the hamburger and all anomalous effects will cease, and it's presumed that a similar effect takes place on the skip itself, and neither the skip or the -1 instances are capable of locomotion. And that is it for the description, and the rest of the work and the bulk of the work by scroll amount is taken up in interview logs that are largely dialogue. And we have a back and forth with the skip that is in German, and it's been translated to English. And our skip indicates that it was born in the great city of Hamburg, Germany. And we asked, if you originated in Germany, how did you end up a continent away? To which the hamburger replies, I swam. And the junior researcher replies, but you can't move. To which the hamburger replies, I am the Duke of Hamburg. To which our researcher says, how does that affect anything? And it kind of goes on from there, like kind of talking at each other, but nobody really making any headway here. But we do get to a point where the skip takes offense, and at us pointing out that they're not capable of locomotion, so that seems like a city not in much need of, like, how would it operate? Nobody can move. And our skip says, are you threatening to incapacitate us? It's the greatest city of them all. And so at this point, our interviewer is trying to kind of rein it back in, and the skip says, silence. And apparently it was really, really loud. And we have a couple more of these logs where we have our first -1 instance, and it's they're named Arik and is a member of the personal guard, and he's here to protect me from hostiles such as yourself. And we have it's a lot of dialogue. The dialogue it's not bad. It's not the best I've ever seen, but it does the job, and it's entertaining. So you have the guard manifesting a French fry and throwing it at the researcher, and despite the ability to anomalously manifest and launch French fries at the researcher, they're just French fries. Like, it wouldn't hurt any more than getting hit with a French fry thrown at you. And so we grab the -1 instance and take it out of the room, and so from then on, the relations between us and the skip has gone downhill. We have a big manifestation event occurring of 22 more of these -1 instances. We have a guard entering the cell, and our skip yells engage, and all of the -1s throw French fries at the guard at the same time. One of them happens to hit the guy in the eye, causing him to retreat, and there's some cheering, and all of the hamburgers begin to chant freedom for Arik in German, which I thought was a nice touch. We have another interview log where they're basically pointing out that this is a rescue mission at this point, and we're trying to, they're attacking to try and earn their freedom. And a researcher gets hit in the eye again. He trips and falls, and one of the hamburgers is crushed by the researcher. It's all of these, goofy, silly things. This is not a joke article, but it is, it's still humorous. So we end with an addendum of a transport log of 3 guards basically putting these hamburgers in a box to take them to a soundproof room, and they cause more hamburgers to manifest in various places, and they get ketchup on one of the agents, and a lot of the Dash 1s try to open fire, but they're, in a cardboard box. That doesn't work all that well. So they keep it up. These new ones that have manifested on the ground and all that. And the agents decide, let's just go around all this. And the Dash 1s go, what are you doing? Get back here. That's not how war works. And the last line of the dialogue says, hey, get the fuck back here. This violates the Geneva Convention. You don't want me getting the UN involved with this, which is actually, I get that you're trying to, ramp it up and make it funnier, but up to this point, the work has sort of implied that all of these, hamburger German military are from World War I era Germany. So the line doesn't make a lot of sense, and it actually, I think, works against the piece. There is stuff going at all different points in time, and maybe it's so scattershot and the timing is all over the place, so it doesn't really matter at all. But it's an odd sort of work all in all. It is a reasonably good premise and an above average execution, but it is bogged down in a lot of easily fixable mistakes. The tone is okay, and but it is lacking. There's a lot of it. There's a level of attention to detail that we don't really have in the piece right now. And truth be told, the dialogue does drag a bit when you look at it in terms of dialogue to the rest of the piece. It is very heavily skewed towards dialogue, and it's not all necessary. I think you could remove probably a third of this and still get where you want to go and have it be a more solid piece, a more, tighter, more entertaining, and maybe a little less wacky, and still get there. This does lack any real hook, as far as if you want to try to bring in some horror element. There is not one in this work. And when you are not dealing with a Dash J, that is, it's something to consider. When the only thing you're really relying on is humor, then it is, you kind of do so at your own risk, because humorous works, different people find different things funny. And when you already have your issues of spelling, punctuation, and grammar, it's kind of a gamble, I would say. So that's a consideration. There is not a lot to attract you to this piece if you don't find the premise or the execution all that funny. There's nothing else for it was a cool plot twist, or it was a good creepy thing, but I didn't care for the joke. You don't have that to fall back on. So that said, good premise, okay execution, but enough basic issues that for now this is a no vote. I want to see I want to see this gone over with a fine-tooth comb. Remove those then errors, and consider if you want to be if you want to stay in a certain time period, because you have gone all over the place with the piece, and that doesn't really buy you anything, I don't think. And consider if you want to add anything as far as a horror element. If you don't, you may be in danger of this sort of riding in those, high single digit to low double digits for a while. So, consider all of those things, and in the meantime, this is a no vote. Moving on, we have a Dash J. SCP-1294J, titled The Watering Down Can, written by AIS Mallard. They are a regular in the SCP Cafe chat room. I've been sort of out of touch this week, despite all the goings on with JamCon. So this did get plugged, and I didn't see it up until the last, pretty much the last second of doing my selections for the week. I've mentioned before I don't really have a chance to see ratings or authors going in, so the picks are blind. But it is interesting how I will get the same people consistently that make the sort of things that I want to go over in the recap shows. So we have 1294J. We have an image of what looks like a pretty standard green plastic watering can that you might use in a garden with a sort of straight tube nozzle in the front, as opposed to like the big pan head that stuff would just sort of sprinkle out of. We have an object class of Euclid and procedures that indicate that it is to be kept in an anomalous item locker when not being used for testing. Oak wood restraints, painted cyan, and reinforced with lead, telekill, iron oxide alloy, we'll try that again, have been attached to the object to prevent spills. At least 4 level 2 and 2 level 3 security personnel are to guard the vault to prevent theft. 1D class is to prepare and consume Earl Grey tea from 1294J once daily under pain of termination and or revocation of shower privileges, and despite 1294J posing no threat of containment breach if simply left alone in its safe, its object class has been upgraded to Euclid for dramatic effect. So I believe what we have here is a bit of a poking fun at the wiki itself, which I'm good with. I do that a fair amount myself. Our description, as if to hammer that home immediately, says SCP-1294-J is struck through, and it says appears to be. So basically doing the exact opposite of what we tell people, to do. So it appears to be a light green plastic watering can, and we have an addendum that might lend some credence to that down the road. It says, see addendum 1294J2. The object is capable of dispensing an unlimited amount of water when poured from its spout, and consuming an unlimited amount of liquid when poured into its top opening. It's impervious to damage, and all attempts to destroy it have resulted in failure and short-circuited electronics. Personnel reported that drinking from 1294J tastes wet and water-like. Go figure. We have a creation log. It was created by blah, 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 is by Ralph Green, designated POI 1111, after, and it says relevant data expunged, which resulted in a 3 black box cases of redacted. And after numerous casualties, the object was successfully contained at Site-01, and an exception to green site status is made for this anomaly due to its ability to provide water for the site, reducing the risk of a poisoned water supply or drought. However, as A-class personnel are prohibited from coming in contact with anomalies, water from regular sources is used instead. So we go to all the trouble to get the thing into a green zone, and then still have no plans of making any use of it. So we go to a recovery log, and it features MTF Beta 14 057's Antique Roadshow collectors. And we have an Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, and Epsilon. So our Alpha says, check, this is Alpha, MTF B14's commander, Agent Frank Ernest reporting in. We've been assigned to go and collect 1294J. We're all set, ready to deploy. Read off your call signs. Beta says, this is Beta reporting in. Delta says, this is Delta. All set to go. Alpha says, stop. Delta, we gotta go in order. Start over. I'm Alpha. And then Beta says, this is Beta. Then Gamma checks in. Then Delta, then Epsilon. And they deploy, approach the building. They're going to break in. 3, 2, 1. The task force enters the building and retrieves the watering can without incident. The members are extracted by helicopter. Beta says, good work, guys. Job well done. End log. I love this. It's like this whole thing is it's an amping up and just like a mocking of the concept of these, over the top MTFs, like to recover a watering can that is otherwise totally harmless. But we brought in 5 MTFs and were extracted by a helicopter. We have an interview log with the POI. It is suitably mysterious, and we were talking about the watering can, and tell us about its creation. The POI says, fine, a long time ago I was in dire need, you see, dire need. And the researcher says, in need of what? The POI says, it was a dark and stormy night, dark rolling clouds overhead, occasionally interrupted by bright lightning, seeming to shake the firmament itself. Rain fell as if to cause a second great flood. We go, I see, you needed an umbrella. POI says, precisely. And the researcher says, well, 1294J is not an umbrella. POI says, but it appears to not be an umbrella. So it is an umbrella? If it's used correctly, indeed. Yes, can you clarify? And POI laughs and strokes his chin and says, oh, so foolish. You Foundation folk shall never understand the power of the reverse hidden umbrella. The researcher person says, I still don't, and says, end log. The researcher says, what? I'm not finished. He just makes a cryptic statement and we end the interview? And the senior researcher says, sorry, that's protocol. End article. There's a lot to love about this work if you've been around for any length of time. This is, a really a lot of, very astute observations at the state of what we let people get away with in positively upvoted works. The interview log, the second interview log, is straight out of the cliche contest. The interviewee makes an inscrutable, mysterious statement, and we've been doing that for so long, and we have that breaking of the fourth wall. Says, what? He can't just make a cryptic statement and end the interview. We go, sorry, that's protocol. That's what we do around here. And the extraction of the watering can by a mobile task force, and I'm just trying to picture this, tactical, all black SWAT team looking fucking thing going in, kicking down a door, and then being extracted by a helicopter with a whatever they call it, the repelling line, where they are getting lifted up, and one of them's holding this little green watering can. Like, it's a great visual. The whole thing is really compact and enjoyable. Like, it's really solid, and for a joke, we still don't. There aren't a lot of them that do this. Intentionally breaking the fourth wall. Things are funny in other ways, but I don't see enough of them that do this sort of thing, that really intentionally poke fun at basic things that we do on the main list on a regular basis. We've done plenty of things that were one-offs that we could, make jokes about later. This, I like that it attacks a number of sort of core assumptions that we seem to be okay with letting people get away with. This is an easy +1 for me. Before I go on to the last entry, I want to talk about the Long Boy of the Week. It's actually the highest rated work of the week as well, and rightfully so. This is SCP-4498, and it's titled The Plurality of Jack Bright, written by DJ Cactus. Cactus wrote 2 long pieces this week. He and I talked about the other one a couple of days ago, but this one is really something, and it's something special for longtime readers or readers that are really well versed in the characters and the people behind the characters that were so famous in the early days of the wiki. They are pretty much all featured in this work. We have the core premise of Dr. Bright accidentally fucking up and turning an entire site into copies of himself, having his, persona implanted on all of them. and what follows is something between a rescue mission and a Mad Max style takeover of the site. It is a lot of fun. Zin's portrayal in this is not to be missed. Like, I'm just sort of scrolling over it right now as I'm talking about it, and it was, oh my god, like this was the best work of the week, but there's so much dialogue in here that's so good and solid that I do not want to go over all of it, because we would be at it for about 2 or 3 hours, I would say. But please read this. It was easily my favorite piece of the week. I'm hoping some of the people referenced in here that I've seen recently, but not all that recently, like Light and Troy and Clef. I'm hoping they have a chance in the near future to give this a read, because this is straight. This has this feel of some of the best of the Series 1 tales that made use of these author avatars and recurring characters. Absolutely fantastic work. My easiest +1 of the week, and I was absolutely cackling at some of the points in it. So please read it. I think you will absolutely love it, and awesome work. All right, last but not least, on the short show this week, SCP-4630, titled "I Put My Lettuce in the CRISPR, and Now It's Sapient." And CRISPR is in all caps and missing an E. So I believe that's referring to the gene editing technique. This was written by Dr. Leibowitz, and I believe is a first-time piece. The first one that I mentioned at 4585 was also a first-time piece. So I like I said, I think that was what was going on this week. We had a fair amount of people either trying to sneak something in as a first time, or just due to happenstance managed to get it out during a very busy week for everybody, except mainless skip writers that don't care about the contest or would just as soon skip it. So what we have in 4630, there are no images at all, and procedures that indicate that we have a skip, a -1, and a -2. The skip and the -1 are to be kept in a standard hydroponic containment cell, and the cell is partitioned to allow for private interviews with each of the objects, but have the ability to allow free communication when not conducting interviews, and -2 is to be kept in a separate, soundproof hydroponics containment cell. It is to have psychological evaluations on a bi-weekly basis, designed to investigate the extent of the object's knowledge, and the psychologist attending should not bring pencil, paper, or any form of information storing devices with them to the evaluations, and all meetings are to be recorded directly to encrypted drives, set to level 5 clearance only. And after meeting with the -2, the psychologist is to be amnestized with Class C amnestics to remove all knowledge of their time spent with -2. So whatever the hell -2 is a pretty big deal, especially since even after all of that, the psychologists are to be rotated after every meeting. So, high stakes. And our description, the word description is misspelled. Let's see, did anybody catch that? No, this thing's made it as far as it has, it actually reads description. That's okay. SCP-4630 is a head of iceberg lettuce that has gained sapience and a method of spoken communication through unknown means, although we suspect it is through genetic/thaumaturgical means, in particular thaumaturgical components embedded in the gene sequence. We have analyzed its genome and revealed substantial differences between its genetic code and that of typical iceberg lettuce, and we have designated these differences as -A. So what we have done is, I'm getting ahead of myself. We've interviewed this head of lettuce, and it reveals that it believes to be a human researcher working at the Foundation under the name Dr. John Cabbage, but no such person was ever employed by the Foundation. And we're going to come back to that because there's a big question mark to this work. We have tried splicing this anomalous gene sequence into other plants. And we have done this twice, and we've got a -1 and a -2. All of the objects are sapient and believe they're human, and believe they've worked at the Foundation in one way or another, despite no records existing to corroborate them. And they all have names relating to the vegetable in a direct, or at least commonly misunderstood, manner. And we have the discovery log that indicates that the skip was discovered in the lowermost drawer of the refrigerator inside the Site 9 break room, when the object exclaimed he was being assaulted by a junior researcher as they were attempting to construct a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich. So who are these people that are stealing lettuce from the crisper in a site break room? You don't do that, people. We have an audio log between a Dr. Chong and our Dr. Cabbage, our SCP-4630, and it's about as bizarre as you would think, to where Dr. Chong is asking, how do you feel about being a head of lettuce, Dr. Cabbage? And sir, I've never for a moment in my life ceased being a human being. We go, and Dr. Cabbage, you describe yourself as a doctor. Would you mind telling me what you're a doctor of? Well, on my diploma it says biological sciences, but I was hired at the Foundation for my work on thaumaturgical biology. And very strange sorts of interviews. Dr. Cabbage is allegedly a biologist, studying the phenotypical traits of thaumaturgic creatures, fairies, unicorns, and the like. The classics. So we have a couple of notes from the site director and lead researcher that we are going to attempt to gene splice this anomalous DNA into a host. So we have done so and spliced the anomalous DNA into a banana, and then the very next day we were able to interview it. So that was quick. So we say good afternoon, -1, and -1 says, what? I'm an SCP now? And we go, I'm sorry? Well, the last time I checked, the number you slapped me with was D0579. So that's interesting. So we go, what was your name prior to joining the Foundation? And -1 says Sigmund Peel. So we have Dr. Cabbage and Mr. Peel, and Mr. Peel doesn't remember where he was yesterday morning. And it's a plausible explanation, asking, do you think you'd remember every time you stared at a gray concrete wall? And we have another set of experiment logs. We are going to attempt to splice again onto a ear of corn, or at least a corn seed of some sort. And we have a very short third audio log here with -2. And -2 says, oh God, am I dead? I figured if there was a god, he'd do this sort of cruel joke to me. And we asked him to elaborate. He goes, the last thing I remember, I was lying in bed, which means I'm probably dead. I bet those bastards at the Black Box did it too. They've been planning their little black box for years now, and I guess they finally built up the nerve to strike. And our doctor says, I'm sorry, but if you don't mind me asking, why would the black box target you specifically? -2 says, because I'm 05 Black Box, Joseph Cobb, you simpleton. I'm sorry, that was uncalled for. I'm just in shock is all. Our doctor says, oh shit. End log, end article. I love this ending. Particularly when you have that moment to think back to the beginning where it says, wait a minute. We've already established these people did not exist in the Foundation's records, but yet whatever this -2 is capable of is significant enough that we have gone way above and beyond the call of duty to make sure that people don't remember the sorts of things that we discuss with it in the interviews with the psychologist. So it's that last little piece that adds that horror element that was missing from the first work, that we have all of a sudden this existential sort of thing of holy shit, what just happened here? Obviously, the O5s are likely all accounted for. we would certainly be able to account for our researcher, our first Dr. Cabbage. I would understand if a D class was, missed or, flew under the radar if they didn't know that they had one with that name. But the O5s, nah. But at the same time, how do we explain this? And anytime you add, thaumaturgy to the mix, it always feels like a little bit of a cop-out. Like, how does it work? Well, it's fucking magic. It's magic for nerds. So, given what we've sort of set up and what we've built in the piece, I think that's okay. And I think that's a reasonable way to kind of wiggle out of the pigeonhole. But all that said, this is a good work. This is solid, and the dialogue in here is good for a first work. This is really good. This does not have any of the issues that we had in the first spelling, punctuation, and grammar. Outside of the one misspelling of description, which I'll go ahead and edit, it all seems to be good. It all looks good to my eye. The tone looks really good. The dialogue looks very believable. And so yeah, end to end, this is honestly a fairly short work, but it's good. This is an easy +1. And truth be told, so much of the JamCon stuff this week, it's hard for these other works to get noticed right now. So, make sure you are looking at works outside of the contest entries, because there were 12 of them just in the last week. And, outside of, I believe, the 2 cactus gifts, none of them were above +25. So, take a look. Do your civic duty. Read skips. And, don't just look at the ones that you see in the chat room. Go take a look at recently created, and pick something at random. Grab something and expand your horizon. See what you like, see what you don't like. This one I like. This is an easy +1. Now, with that, we're going to call week 11 a wrap. Short episode. Sorry about that, but hopefully we will be back on sort of our usual sort of groove for week 12. Do plan to release that on the 22nd. Maybe it may not be on the 22nd. In all honesty, it may be a day, maybe even 2 days late, because the 21st will be my 10-year anniversary with my wife. So forgive me if you don't see me on the 22nd. Maybe out of town, maybe enjoying life a little bit. And in the meantime, we will get to week 12 one way or another. So until then, keep reading, keep writing, and I'll see you on the other side.